So I have here 1 liter, and so I'm gonna use 2 of my packets, and I just dissolve them, and I usually have like a chopstick or stick that I can just mix this, and I will keep this here, but it's ready. So now I don't have to worry about it. When you get your bunch, just make sure you open it, and then you have the stems. If you're gonna use your bunch like in a regular cylinder or container in your home, like you just wanna plop the flowers at home, just make sure you remove some of the foliage. Usually you don't want your water in touch with the foliage, because that's gonna make all the water messy and not nice, and it's gonna shorten the life of the flowers. So remove some of the foliage. Some flowers have more foliage, some of them don't have, but just make sure you remove part of it, and then you have cleaner stems. It's gonna look better, and they're gonna last longer. Okay, once you have them cleaned, and this is for any project that you decide to make. Once you have them cleaned, and this is also very, very important, you need to cut your stems, but it's not any type of cut. You need to cut your stems diagonally. So I'm using my scissor like this, and I'm cutting it diagonally. Maybe you can see over there. That's key. And why we cut it diagonally? Because we want the most area of our stem to absorb water. If we cut it like in the regular way, we're gonna have less area. But if we cut it like in the diagonal way, you're gonna get more water. Every stem you buy, you need to do that. And I cannot say this enough. You need to do it because flowers, let me tell you something, flowers get to the stores, and most of them come to the US on a plane. So they have been on a plane for several days, and then they land in Miami, and then there's a truck that brings all the flowers to all the stores from Miami. So they've been several days without water, and they get water as soon as they get to the store. But you need to cut that stem, like to remove that part that it's already, let's say, blocked in some way, and so that water can come up and do its job. Of course, the water needs to be with the flower food, needs to be this solution. And if you cut every stem of your bunch and put in clean water with your flower food, you're gonna have flowers that last for days. But that's one part of the story. The second part of the story, if you are just plopping your bunch in a cylinder or a container for your house, you need to change that water. And I'm sorry to say that, because I know sometimes we don't want to do that. But if you do that every other day or every 2 days, change your water, clean your container, put new water, put new flower food, and recut your stems once again, then you extend the life of those flowers. So there are three tips, very, very important tips. Flower food, cutting your stems the first time you put them in water, and changing your water every other day or every 2 days, and recut your stems again. Those 3 things will help you a lot when we talk about vase life. Okay, I'm gonna cut my stems here, put this back. I have here a bucket with the stuff I bought for the class, but I really wanted to show you what are the first things to do. So a little bit, I'm gonna show you what I got and just share with you the names so that you can get familiar. This is a very popular flower. It's called Astromeria, and we have it in a lot of colors. It has a long vase life, and it's a good choice because it's not an expensive flower. It's pretty accessible, and if you're looking for flowers that can fill your container easily or fill up something easily, Alstroemeria is a good choice, because it's, you know, look at two stems together, they will make like, they have like a really good volume. So I always have Alstroemeria in hand, not expensive, long base life, and we have it year round in a lot of colors. So it's a good choice. And again, what I'm doing is just cleaning my stems. And I'm cutting my stems and I'm putting them here. Then I got mixed bouquet that I found yesterday at Publix. This is more of a simple, or yeah, simple bouquet. It's not like the more complex bouquets we can get at a store, but it was really interesting because I wanted to show you this. This is an ornamental cabbage. The scientific name is brassica, but this is a very interesting flower. It's a different element that we're not used to see in store-bought bunches. So I thought I was gonna get it to show you, and maybe we can use it. And again, we have these chrysanthemums, more of a daisy. It's a good flower, long base life, a lot of colors. It's available year round, and it's super inexpensive. So it's a good choice if you're looking for something to put in your house or something. Let me say that all of these bunches are in Publix are $3. So it's a very good value. And then of course we have carnations, because I think we're maybe familiar with them, because it's a very popular flower, and it's a flower that is very classic and that's been around for ages. And I got them because I needed something red. So I have my red flowers here. I bought one bunch of greenery, and in this case is eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is super trendy right now. It has a long base life too, and it can easily dry, and then you can still use it in your containers as a dry material. All the dried flowers or permanent flowers are very popular right now, so eucalyptus is a really good choice. And again, it's a foliage, but I'm still gonna clean a little bit of my stems. You can see there. And I am going to cut my stems and plop this in water. And finally, I have, and this might be a kind of a big flower for the projects we're having today, but I need to show you lilies. Lilies are, I could say lilies are my favorite flower. I got this because these come from my country, from Costa Rica, and these are the ones, these come from the farm I work at, so I'm very familiar with this product. We have several types of lilies, but these are oriental, oriental lilies, and they are very fragrant, so keep that in mind. A lot of people don't like fragrant flowers. There's one thing with the lilies, and that's the pollen. I don't know if you can see it. First thing, when you buy a lily, just make sure you remove the pollen before it's mature. That way, you're not gonna stain yourself or stain the flower or stain another flower or a ribbon or something. So maybe you can see in the camera, it's not mature already. If it was mature, it would look like dusty, like really dusty. So just as soon as you see it, just try to remove it, just pull it, and then you're not gonna have that problem. You can always look for one of these chenille stems, and then you just if it's in the flower, if the flower is so, oops, well, I broke one. I'm going to show you with the petal. If the petal is already stained, you just kind of do like this, and this will, like a magnet, it will attract all the pollen. The same if it gets on your clothes or in the tablecloth. So a little piece of, I always keep one here in my tools. Okay, let me clean up these, and of course, save your flower food for when you need to change your water. And I'm gonna clean up these. Okay, I want to show you a very nice and simple project that you can do for your house, or that you can do for just to share with a friend, or give to a friend, or give to someone, just to say thanks, or for any occasion. I'm going to use one of these mason jars. Maybe you're familiar with them. You can get this at Walmart or at any store. But if you don't have this one, you can use any type of jar you have around at home. Like I think this was like, I don't know, maybe peanut butter or something. I love my jelly jars. I have plenty of them, and you just wash them and clean them up, really good. This still has like a little bit of glue from the label, but you get the idea. Any kind of jar you have around, you don't need to go and buy anything. My husband bought this this coffee, this Frappuccino coffee the other day, and I think this bottle is amazing for creating something. And I haven't cleaned it perfectly yet, but I really wanted to show you, and maybe we can put some flowers in here so that you can see that it doesn't need to be like a white jar. It could be like a nice bottle. I have this nice bottle also that I got on Walmart. This was like $1 in Walmart. So something nice. It doesn't need to be expensive. It's just some kind of I have another one here, some kind of container that you can put flowers. Just make sure for this project that it's not too tall. I'm not going to be using this because this will require us to use longer stems, and I don't want to put you in that yet. Just make something that's shorter. So I'm going to grab maybe this one, my recycled jar. And since I already have my water here with my flower food, I'm gonna just put my water, it's already mixed, and I'm gonna maybe put halfway through just of water. And we can use a little bit of everything, and this is where the fun starts, because you can pick from what you have. And another option is that if you want to make this but you don't want to spend like a lot on flowers, you can always split with a friend and buy a couple of bunches between you and a friend, and then you can split and you can have your projects, and it's a fun way to do it also. I'm going to pick a little bit of everything. I'm going to arrange it in a moment. Of course, we need some greenery here.
So Marcela, tell us a little bit about colors, like designing with colors.
Yeah.
We see some bouquets that are more or less same color family, and some bouquets who have contrasting color. So if you can give us some tips about what's the best thing to do when we're picking up several bouquets, different colors that we want to create one bouquet with.
Yes, if you want to learn a little bit more about color and you want to understand it better, you need to definitely take a look at the chromatic circle. You can Google that if you're not familiar with that. And it's the way colors are displayed. And when you said that we found bouquets that are like in the same range, it's because they pick, let's say, we pick a pink, and then we use the colors that are next to it in the color wheel, because we know that those colors look really good together. And when you see more contrasting combinations, it's because we're using the opposite color in the color wheel. And the best example of that is yellow and purple, which is very contrasting. We use it a lot like for summer bouquets or summer arrangements or birthdays, because it's a lot of color. It's a very cheerful combination. So when you see those contrasting combinations, usually there are opposites in the color wheel. Whether this one that I'm using, it's like red, pinks, and purples, they are like in the same area of the color wheel. And that's how we, excuse me, that's how we designers create our combinations. Of course, we are guided by the season. And sometimes we use unexpected colors for the holidays. For instance, in fall, we have been using in the last years more whites than we used 5 years ago. And that's because trends change and people want to see different things. And also because of a very interesting is that the farms not only grow flowers in fall, not only oranges and yellows and burgundies, they still need to grow the white flowers. And even though the farms scale their production for fall and for all the different seasons, there are still going to be flowers in white. So that's a creative way to put on a little twist on the color palette, and also make sure that the farm can source all the products, and including other colors. So it's a little bit of trends, but it's a little bit of how flowers grow in a farm. Okay, I'm gonna use 3 stems of these chrysanthemums. They're really small, but they're super cute. So I thought they were perfect for our project here. And this is where I know most of you get scared when you need to cut the flowers. So you can do this. You can just try to estimate with, okay, you can see me there. Try to estimate with the height of your container how tall, how tall you want it to be. For, as a rule, we have a rule in flower design that usually your flowers cannot exceed 1.5 times of your container. So we have 1 here and kind of half here. That's a rule. Of course, rules can be broken, and we break them every day. But that's a rule. If you feel that your flowers are too tall, just check that, because if you use your stems too long, this is gonna look that's not that it doesn't have a proportion, and that's very important. And of course, you don't want this to tilt or just to move. So keep that in mind. And when we use this type of containers, we don't want like the exact 1.5 size here. We usually, maybe we can estimate like half the size of the container for your flowers. I do it because I'm used to it. I just cut my stems and I know where am I. But if you are just kind of worried about that, do this. I mean, it's kind of easy, and then you know where you're gonna cut. You just put your finger, be careful not to cut yourself, and then you can start putting your flowers. If you feel more comfortable now that you have one that's already cut, if you feel more comfortable just to use that as a guide and then cut the other, I mean, just do it. There's no wrong way. I mean, as I mentioned, the idea is to have fun and to just create something and challenge ourselves to do something different. Not all your flowers need to be the same height. If you don't want to, you can leave some of them, as I left the alstroemeria here, they are shorter. You can see here the difference, and that's totally okay. And what that creates is depth in your design. You can have them all in the same length, or you can just create some depth and some interest and use shorter stems with other flowers. I'm gonna add another alstroemeria here. Okay, I can stop here or I can keep on. I'm gonna keep on adding a lot of stuff. If you want me, I can start all over and I can put them all over again. And if you noticed, I added my first 3 stems of chrysanthemums at the first time. But if you want to add 1 chrysanthemum, 1 astro here, another here, another here, you know, and then you can just it's what about it. I mean, it's about what it feels good and about how did you like it. I could easily just do it in a more grouped way. Let's say the 3 chrysanthemums, and then I can add my 3 astro here, and it's more like blocked, like separate, like all my astro here, all my chrysanthemums here, and I could add like another group of flowers here. It's totally up to you. I mean, it's the idea is to have fun and create something different.
The other thing, if you can tell us about, is texture.
Yes.
Like if I bought, for example, all carnations and the greens. I didn't buy a lot of things, but I still wanted to look interesting. And so I don't know if I should just stick with the carnations, you know, like that affect just roses or just one thing, or I should mix in greens and maybe other ornamental things to make it interesting. So
yes, it of course depends on the intention, on what you like. If we're talking about trends right now, we're seeing a lot of these, that it's like a little bit of everything. You know, the bouquets that we're seeing today at the stores, they might be 20 stems, and maybe there are like 5 types of flowers in there, or 6 or 7, because we're using like 1 stem of each thing. Because right now the trend is like to have a little bit of everything, a lot of texture, and a lot of things that the customer can look at and be interested in what's going on in the composition. So if it's trends right now, the trend is to use a lot of things and also to make it feel like you just pick it from your garden. You know what I mean? Like a very natural, organic look. Of course, we can use only 1 type of flower. Some years ago, we were using a lot of roses grouped together and a lot of carnations, and that's still okay today. I mean, we still do it. That's okay. Just make sure you have something else to break that from. And if you only have like the main flower and the greens, that's okay. It's totally okay. If you want, you can grab some kind. Let me fix something I have here. I always keep like a box of branches and things that are already dry that I didn't use when they were fresh, and I just keep them because, you know, everything's going to work at some time, and you never know when you're going to need it. So I have a box of dried flowers there. You can use like some kind of branch, and you don't need to buy this. Maybe you can just grab it from your yard or from your neighborhood. So that's a nice thing to add. I'm gonna leave 1 here, but just make sure you have something else to add. I always keep like a box of like a shoebox full of things that I find interesting, and I use them sometimes in my craft projects or in my flowers. But you can use like little embellishments, or, you know, add something. This could be another option, this type of green that it's just like very plain, very simple. It would add movement and texture. Or if you get like a present, and these are not from the season, but if you get a present or you find something interesting, like this kind of decorative picks, this is, of course, this is fall, and this is Thanksgiving, but you can add something like this just to add something extra and kind of break that texture, that one kind of, one type of flower texture. But if you like it that way, I mean, it's totally okay, and it's totally up to you. Okay. I have carnations because, you know, it's Valentine's Day. We want something red. It can be a carnation, it can be a little pig with a heart, or it can be a ribbon, and I'm going to talk about that soon. But, you know, we need something red. And if you don't have like the red element with your flowers, maybe your container is red, and that's perfect. I'm gonna add my branch. It's actually called Curly Willow, and this one I sprayed it maybe in Christmas time with gold paint, so it's kind of gold, and I think it's part of the color palette that we can use this week. And I'm just gonna, and we need to cut it a little bit. This is gonna add movement, because it's totally unexpected. You know, maybe you don't see the line, but it's here. So it breaks a little bit that round composition. I'm gonna add a couple, and these don't really need to be like taking water because they're already dried, but you can push them all the way just to make sure they are secure. And I'm gonna add my greens. Let me see. Okay, I have here one stem of eucalyptus, and as you can see, it comes with extra stems here. So I'm gonna just cut these. I cannot put all the stem in there because the water is gonna cover this and it's gonna get all slimy. So just make sure you clean your stem, and you can have like a separate little container with water and just save this for another thing. And we're gonna use them for our second project. And we can, and since this stem is so full, I don't think I'm gonna add any extra greens, because I have, if you put it flat, I have like 3 main stems here. So it's.
I have another question, Marcela.
Sure.
With numbers,
Mm.
is there like a kind of a magic number that we should use, like not go overboard or not do less than that, you know, for visual interest? Sometimes I hear odd numbers are better than even.
Yes, talking about the rules and the rules that we can break, yes, odd numbers are preferred. It depends on a lot of the, of course, on the composition and what you're doing, but yes, odd numbers are preferred. Like in this one, we've used so far 3 stems of chrysanthemums, and they are placed right now like in a triangle shape. And I didn't, you know, I didn't plan them to be like in a triangle. And don't stick to that, and don't be like, no, my triangle is not perfect. It's just let it be. But if it helps you visualize, it's like a triangle here. And then I have my 3 Alstru, 2, and I have a couple of carnations, and 1 stem of eucalyptus, and a couple of this curly willow that really, you know, it doesn't add for the volume, because it's not a volume thing. It's very important to know when to stop. So of course, one sign that you should stop is like when you're feeling like your jar is too tight to more flowers. That's like a very visual, or you can feel it that it's too tight. Now, I mean, I can still put more flowers because it's not tight at all. But just if you're not sure, just walk away from it and take a look at it, and just, you know, turn it and see if there are some spaces that need something else, or if you think you're good to go. If your flowers are like moving a lot and turning a lot, that might be that you need more stems, because you want some kind of full effect here. But I think it's a good moment to stop now. I could add something else. If I had another stem of carnations, I probably would add it here, just to have something interesting here. Or I could add, I'm gonna add a stem of lily. And since these lilies are quite big, look at the bloom. It's basically the size of my hand. I'm just gonna cut one of these, and the one that's more that's looking more pink is this one. So this one is the one that's gonna bloom first. This is gonna bloom, but it's not as fast. So I'm gonna keep this one, and I just cut here. And I'm gonna, of course, put that in another container for another thing. And I'm gonna just put it here. Even though the lily is not fully bloom yet, we know that it's gonna bloom in a couple of days, and the person that receives the flowers, or even you at home, you have something to look forward to. And that's one of the things that are really exciting about flowers. Watch them bloom and watch them every day to see how they change. So I added that, just to, another flower. And of course, it's gonna add the fragrance element to the composition. If you want to embellish or enhance a little bit the container, there are a lot of ways we can do it. We can use or we can add a bow, or we can just wrap something around. So some examples of things that I gathered this morning to show you that you might have around, that you're familiar. This is kind of a tool, yes, and this is from Walmart. So nothing that's exclusive or anything. I have this in lavender color that's perfect for our project. I have this ribbon that it's the one we use a lot for balloons, and we kind of curl it. Again, this is from Walmart, nothing really fancy. I have the traditional ribbon, like fabric ribbon, that you can get at Michael's or any other store. We can, and this is one of my favorites, we can use yarn to create something interesting in our container, just plain yarn. And again, I keep all the scraps from my project. This is my scrap of yarn box. And so just when you're creating something, just grab your boxes and something will work. This is kind of wide, but burlap will also work. They sell it by ribbon, or you can just cut a piece and tie it around. And I have this twine that's again it's from a craft store, I guess. You can add a little piece here at the top, like not only once, but add a lot of it, and you can create something nice. Or you can have like a ribbon like this also. So it's basically what you have around. We use a lot of wires in floristry these days. This is aluminum wire, and this is the one we use at the shops, but the dollar store sells something that's pretty similar, and you can embellish with wire too.
How would you use that, Marcela? How would you use the wire?
Yes.
I've never seen it before.
If we use the wire, let me grab my wires. Okay, this is aluminum wire. It's super easy to work with your hands. It's not hard in your hands. You just cut a piece. There are a lot of ways. You can add it here. I use this type of glue dots. Well, these are not dots exactly. These are squares, but you can get glue dots.
Stickers?
Yes, it's an adhesive. It has two sides. So I just remove one side, and I'm gonna place it here. You can still see, and I'm gonna peel the other part. So one part, so it's already here in the glass. And that's gonna help me like to set it up there. And I'm gonna use that as a starting point. And then I can just roll it here. And I'm gonna show you in a minute. I'm just rolling it around. Okay. So you can see I have like a different material there with the wire. That's just one way of doing it. And the other way, if you want to be like more creative, you can create like your own pick from wire. So you just straighten this with your hands, and you can create here something, maybe a spiral. And I just use my pliers here. I'm using round pliers. These are jewelry pliers. So I just grab the tip of my wire and make the first loop. Maybe, I'm not sure you see it. Okay, there's the loop. And then with your hands, you start rolling just to create your spiral. And roll, roll, roll. And there's a spiral over there. And you can go on as much as you can, or as long as you can. And you can, what I do is I just turn it to be like this way. And you can stick it here if you want. You see it there. It's in here. So this is something nice. You can create a heart with the wire and then leave the stick just to insert it as it was, as it was one flower. So those are like creative ways that we can enhance or embellish our containers. We can use our tool, and this is easier because we're more familiar with this kind of fabrics. And you can create just regular bow here, tie it around. I'm gonna turn it in a minute. And you can create your bow here, or you can, I love this that I'm gonna show you, because you can create a bow. And if you don't know how to create a bow, you can watch my hands. You leave here a little bit of a tail and make your first loop here. There's one loop here. And then I'm gonna create the second loop here. I have it ready. If you want, you can create more loops, but I'm just gonna have 2 loops in here, and I'm gonna tie them maybe with this ribbon, just a knot here so that my bow is secure. I'm gonna cut here this tail and fluff it, and I'm gonna use like a little skewer stick, or you can use any stem you have left from your trash. It doesn't matter, whatever you have. And I'm gonna stick it here with the remaining pieces of ribbon that I have. So you just tie a knot. I'm gonna show you in a moment. I'm gonna tie 2 knots really tight. Look there. Yeah. And I'm gonna these pieces of ribbon. I have scissors for everything. And I'm gonna cut my skewer here or my stem, and I'm gonna insert my bow here. And this is a nice way because the bow, it's part of the composition and it adds another texture that we were talking about. And in this case, since we're using the tool and it's like a very fluffy material, it looks really pretty and really cute for our upcoming holiday. So you can do this with any type of ribbon you have or any type of material. Just make sure you secure it pretty good to your stick or to your stem.
That's really pretty.
It is, and you can, I put it here, but you can put it over here. I mean, whatever you want, but it adds a lot to the composition, and it looks pretty cute. You can tie it around here, you know, like several times, and then you can, and if you tied it in this part of the container, you don't need like a glue dot because it will stay there. You can create just a regular bow here, or you can just tie a knot and then create another bow with more yarn and just attach the bow and then tie with the yarn. Or you can do the same thing as we did with the wire. Just put some kind of glue dot that would hold your yarn. I would use like several, and I would use two, one here and one in the back, so that this won't happen. If you want that like even look, you know, like every strand of the yarn like perfectly touching each other, you know, to create like a band of yarn. So you can use the glue dot for that, or you can make something that's pretty. It's nice. You can grab from the same plastic bunch that we use. You can kind of create like a ball shape. And of course, I'm using the whole bunch here, but you can use like just part of it and try to create like a ball, and maybe start giving it the shape of a ball with the same yarn, you know, wrapping it around to create like a fluffy ball. And then you can stick a stem in the center and put a little bit of hot glue, and then you can have like a little ball of yarn, and that's something that could really work. I'm gonna bring it. This is already made, but I mean, I'm inspired by this. Something like this, like a little sphere or orb made of yarn could work. Or if you have one of those styrofoams, little orbs that maybe sometimes we have around the house, you can just wrap it with yarn and stick a stem or stick a skewer, and then you can add it to your compositions, and that's a really nice touch.
Thank you so much, and see you all next Tuesday, hopefully, and we'll be in touch, Marcela. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Have a good day.